Leonardo Dicaprio. How a kid from Hollywood's trashiest streets became the king of the Oscars and broke half the planet's hearts. When you hear the name Leonardo Dicaprio, you probably think of Titanic, fine wine, yachts, supermodels, and the eternal meme, "Where's my Oscar?" But behind the glossy surface lies a totally different Leo, a kid from the sketchy streets of Los Angeles who had more cockroaches in his hallway than toys in his room. Yes, Leo didn't grow up in Beverly Hills, but rather in its complete opposite, where drug dealers were part of the scenery. A hippie dad, a German mom, and an unorthodox family setup. Leo was born on November 11, 1974, in Los Angeles. His mom, Ermeline, was a German immigrant working as a secretary. His dad, George, was an underground comic artist and full-time hippie with a money is evil, but freedom is groovy kind of mindset. They split up when Leo was just a baby but continued living next door to each other, in a twin-house setup, a sort of Hollywood divorce co-op. He was named after Leonardo da Vinci because his mum felt him kick for the first time while standing in front of one of the artist's paintings in Florence. Even baby DiCaprio had taste, not the Hollywood you think, if you imagine little Leo growing up around swimming pools, limos, and Hollywood parties. Wrong movie. He grew up in neighborhoods like Echo Park and East Hollywood, places where rap lyrics about street life weren't fiction, they were just Tuesday. I saw people dealing drugs right outside my front door. DiCaprio once said. His neighborhood had more guns than toys, and instead of a nanny, he had self-discipline. Occasionally. This was the kind of Hollywood where the glamour stopped 2 blocks past the actual Hollywood sign, a tiny clown with big dreams. From a young age, Leo loved attention. Rumor has it he'd put on little shows at home, impersonating dinosaurs, bus drivers, or anything with a funny voice. At 5, he got kicked off the kids' show Romper Room for being too disruptive. Translation: This child is unfilmable. Someone please sedate him. Still, he didn't give up. Inspired by his stepbrother's success in commercials, Leo started auditioning too. His first roles? Chewing gum ads, toy cars, Apple cereal. Not exactly Titanic, but at least he got to float something. School was pain, but Mom was power. School was a struggle, math was the enemy, focus was a myth. He bounced between schools and eventually dropped out in 11th grade. But that's where his mum stepped in. She drove him across Los Angeles to auditions every single day. Sometimes they hit 3 or 4 casting calls in one day, all ending in rejection. Any average mum would have quit. Ermeline didn't. Dad helped too. You need to try 100 times before someone sees you. So that's what Leo did. 100 auditions, 100 rejections, and then, finally, 1 call from an agent. First breaks and a date with De Niro. By 16, Leo had starred in dozens of commercials, snagged a few guest spots in Roseanne and The New Lassie, and then he caught the eye of Robert De Niro, who picked him for This Boy's Life out of 400 hopefuls. That was followed by What's Eating Gilbert Grape, where he earned his first Oscar nomination, and Hollywood officially had a new obsession. So what now? Now Leo is an icon, a millionaire, an environmentalist, once the eternal Oscar nominee, now a winner. But it didn't start with yachts and Versace. It started with a German mum, 2 tiny houses, and a neighborhood where you either dream big or disappear. And maybe that's what made Leo the Leo we all love. Not just a pretty face, but a guy who crawled out of the gutter and learned to rule the world. How Leonardo DiCaprio got his name and almost ended up as Lenny from the Block. If Hollywood gave out Oscars for the most dramatic name origin story, Leo would have snagged his first statue before he even left the womb. Because, believe it or not, his name was practically his first audition, and it was a scene. It all began, as many great legends do, in a museum. Sometime in the mid-70s, Leonardo's future mother, Ermeline, was wandering around Florence, gently rubbing her round belly. And right as she stood in front of a painting by none other than Leonardo da Vinci, the baby kicked her. Hard, so hard, in fact, that she almost went into labor right there in front of the Annunciation. Okay, maybe that's a bit dramatic. But the kick, that part's true. Now, most women would have smiled and thought, "Oh, the baby likes art," and moved on. Not Irmeline. She took it as a sign from the Renaissance gods and declared on the spot, "He'll be Leonardo." Yes, that's how the future superstar got his name. Not from a baby book, but from a Florentine art gallery. Classy, profound, with just a hint of prophetic flair. But of course, no Hollywood-worthy origin story is complete without a little family drama. Papa George wasn't thrilled about naming his kid after a bearded Italian painter. He was rooting for something simpler, something like Lenny, or God forbid, Buzz. Thank the heavens Ermelyn won that battle. Otherwise the world might have known Lenny D from Echo Park, who sounds more like a SoundCloud rapper than a future Oscar winner. To this day, no one really knows if baby Leo kicked out of genuine artistic appreciation or simply wanted to stretch his legs after months of cramped darkness, but the facts remain. He kicked, and everything changed. His mum swears it was awe. Others say maybe he was just ready to get out, see the real Mona Lisa, and sign his first diaper. Ironically, Leo has joked in interviews that his name is a bit too artsy for a kid like him. And honestly, fair point. When was the last time you met a Leonardo who wears his cap backwards, bikes through Hollywood, and turns down blockbusters to save the planet? Still, the name worked. It sounds expensive, carries gravitas, and fits perfectly on a movie poster. More than that, Leo became the real-life Da Vinci of Hollywood. One minute he's playing a tortured romantic, the next a deranged killer, then a fur-clad survivalist or a climate crusader, multi-talented, genre-bending, and mysterious, just like his namesake. So if you ever think names don't matter, take a long look at Leo. One well-timed kick in front of a Renaissance painting, and voila. Instead of Lenny from the block, the world got Leonardo Dicaprio, the most in-demand actor of the 21st century. How Leonardo DiCaprio got his name and almost ended up as Lenny from the block. If Hollywood gave out Oscars for the most dramatic name origin story, Leo would have snagged his first statue before he even left the womb, because, believe it or not, his name was practically his first audition. And it was a scene. It all began, as many great legends do, in a museum. Sometime in the mid-70s, Leonardo's future mother, Irmeline, was wandering around Florence, gently rubbing her round belly. And right as she stood in front of a painting by none other than Leonardo da Vinci, the baby kicked her. Hard, so hard in fact, that she almost went into labor right there in front of the Annunciation. Okay, maybe that's a bit dramatic. But the kick, that part's true. Now most women would have smiled and thought, "Oh, the baby likes art," and moved on. Not Irmeline. She took it as a sign from the Renaissance gods and declared on the spot, "He'll be Leonardo." Yes, that's how the future superstar got his name, not from a baby book, but from a Florentine art gallery. Classy, profound, with just a hint of prophetic flair. But of course, no Hollywood-worthy origin story is complete without a little family drama. Papa George wasn't thrilled about naming his kid after a bearded Italian painter. He was rooting for something simpler, something like Lenny. Or, God forbid, Buzz. Thank the heavens Ermelyn won that battle. Otherwise, the world might have known Lenny D from Echo Park, who sounds more like a SoundCloud rapper than a future Oscar winner. To this day, no one really knows if baby Leo kicked out of genuine artistic appreciation or simply wanted to stretch his legs after months of cramped darkness. But the facts remain. He kicked, and everything changed. His mom swears it was awe. Others say maybe he was just ready to get out, see the real Mona Lisa, and sign his first diaper. Ironically, Leo has joked in interviews that his name is a bit too artsy for a kid like him. And honestly, fair point. When was the last time you met a Leonardo who wears his cap backwards, bikes through Hollywood, and turns down blockbusters to save the planet? Still, the name worked. It sounds expensive, carries gravitas, and fits perfectly on a movie poster. More than that, Leo became the real-life Da Vinci of Hollywood. One minute he's playing a tortured romantic, the next a deranged killer, then a fur-clad survivalist or a climate crusader. Multi-talented, genre-bending, and mysterious. Just like his namesake. So if you ever think names don't matter, take a long look at Leo, one well-timed kick in front of a Renaissance painting, and voila. Instead of Lenny from the block, the world got Leonardo Dicaprio, the most in-demand actor of the 21st century. How Leo's mom built his career while he was just dreaming of bubblegum and dinosaurs. When people say that behind every great man stands a great woman, in Leonardo DiCaprio's case, it's not just a cliché, it's a step-by-step tutorial. Look at Ermeline, his mom, and you'll understand why he became Leo, and not just another kid from a rough LA neighborhood. While other kids were playing soccer in the yard or stuffing their faces with fast food, Leo was being chauffeured around Los Angeles by his mother. Not in a limo, mind you, in a beat-up car with no air conditioning. And it wasn't for fun, it was for castings, 3 or 4 a day. And no, it wasn't some heartwarming Disney-style road trip. It was endless traffic, long waiting rooms, casting agents with poker faces, and 1,000 other kids with perfect haircuts and robotic smiles. And there was Leo, messy-haired, chewing gum or gripping a plastic dinosaur, with a mom who looked more like a survival expert in the wilds of showbiz than your average stage mom. Ermeline was a real-life superhero, just without the cape. She worked as a legal secretary, lived modestly, but still found the strength to drive her son across the city, again and again, fully aware they'd probably get another "no," a tired "we'll call you," or the classic "where's your agent?" Most sane humans would have thrown in the towel after a month. She kept it up for years. She was his manager, driver, therapist, and motivational coach rolled into one. Every no she turned into, whatever, next one might be a yes. Every rejection, a new route on the map. If the world handed out truly fair awards, an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in Leonardo's life would already be sitting on her shelf. But her award is him. Millions in the bank, a statue in his hand, climate change documentaries, and all of it thanks to one stubborn German woman who refused to let her son fade into the background of South LA. Leo has often said in interviews that without his mother, he never would have made it. Not because she taught him how to act, but because she taught him patience, belief, and the fact that not all doors are shut. Some just have really stubborn locks. Today we see Leo in Armani suits, lounging on yachts, dating supermodels, starring in Netflix projects. But all of that was built on those thousands of miles his mom drove in that old car, while he practiced his smile in the rearview mirror. So if anyone deserves to make an Oscar acceptance speech, it's not him, it's her. Critters 3, the movie Leonardo DiCaprio, wishes he could delete, but we won't let him. Before you saw Leonardo DiCaprio saving Rose on the bow of the Titanic, or turning into bear bait in The Revenant, he fought furry alien bulls in a basement. Yes, Leo's first big movie role was in the horror gem Critters 3, a low-budget masterpiece that he still tries very hard to forget. The plot, in case you missed the glorious VHS era of the early 90s, is simple. Furry alien creatures with teeth, imagine golf balls that went to villain school, invade an apartment building. DiCaprio plays a teenager who, of course, doesn't call the cops, doesn't flee the scene. No. He stays and fights the hairballs, because obviously that's the logical thing to do. Then again, when you're 16 and already dreaming of sipping champagne on a yacht, what's a few murderous furballs? They say Leo landed the part because he was natural, charismatic, and immediately won over the casting director. Realistically, probably because he was the only one who didn't laugh when told, "You'll be saving humanity from a giant furry meatball." Today the film is basically a meme. It doesn't fall into the "so bad it's good" category. No, it's just bad. Leo himself later said in interviews that he's not sure it counts as an official debut. Translation: I was desperate. I was 16, I needed money and a shot. Don't judge me. Still, the movie gave him something no acting class ever could. Experience in staying serious while your co-star is a puppet with fangs and synthetic fur. And after that, Leo could handle anything: psycho killers, British accents, or even pretending to be 19 while dating a model half his age. It's easy to laugh now, but let's be real. Critters 3 was his boot camp, his test, his fur-covered rite of passage. Many stars start with cringe roles, but not all of them become Dicaprio. Leo is proof that it's not about where you start. It's how you spin it later. He owns it now. He jokes about it, and we love him more for it. So next time you watch him in Inception or Shutter Island, take a second and remember where it all began. In a basement, with a fuzzball, and a boy with a dream. How Leo told the witches to buzz off? All for Mr. De Niro. Most teenagers, when offered a role in a Disney movie about witches, would scream, "Yes!" and start planning their red carpet outfit. But not Leo. Nope, Leonardo Dicaprio was the kind of guy who, at 17, said no to Hocus Pocus, a guaranteed paycheck and fame, because he had balls of steel and a dream made of cinema. While other teens fantasized about filming with Bette Midler, Leo dreamed of standing next to Robert De Niro. Yes, that De Niro, who always looks like he's mildly allergic to stupidity. When his agent told him Disney was calling, any other kid would have had their knees buckle. But Leo said, "Thanks, but I want to audition for a serious drama, the kind where someone yells in my face and emotionally traumatizes me for the sake of art." So he walked into the audition for This Boy's Life, where De Niro played an abusive stepfather. And here's the kicker. De Niro himself reportedly insisted they cast Leo. "There's something about that kid," he said. He probably meant survival instincts, because not every 17-year-old is ready to be thrown across a kitchen table by a method actor. The role turned out to be a breakout. Instead of plastic witches, Leo got emotional breakdowns, real trauma, and a masterclass in acting known as "Don't let De Niro outshine you, or you'll disappear from the frame." You could say that was the moment Leo stopped being that cute kid and became that Leo, the one who now chooses between a yacht and a private jet. And yet, it could have all gone so differently. Just imagine Leonardo in Hocus Pocus, wearing a hoodie with a pumpkin on it, shouting, "Oh no, the evil witch!" instead of, "You're not my father," while De Niro stares daggers into his soul. The universe got lucky. We got lucky. Leo chose pain and greatness over pumpkin-flavored popcorn. And sure, Disney probably didn't cry themselves to sleep. Their money makes more money. But even they came back to Leo eventually, only with serious projects and zero witch hats. So next time someone offers you the easy fame or the hard, noble road, remember Leo. Remember De Niro. Remember that one teenager who said no thanks to broomsticks and hell yes to emotional trauma, and he was right. How Leo played a special needs teen and became Hollywood's golden boy way before Titanic. Before Leonardo DiCaprio became the master of dying on screen, seriously, how many times has he met a tragic end? He had already done something most actors only dream of. At 19 years old, he earned his first Oscar nomination. And no, not for a smoldering look or his boy band hair, but because he completely disappeared into the role of a mentally challenged teenager so convincingly that audiences genuinely asked, "Wait, is he really?" The film was called What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and spoiler alert, apparently everything was eating Gilbert, especially the responsibility of taking care of his younger brother. Leo played Arnie, a developmentally disabled teen who climbs water towers and joyfully derails everyone's plans with childlike chaos. And what's wild is that he played it so naturally, so believably, that many people thought the director had just cast an actual kid from a special needs school. When it came out that the actor wasn't that kid, but actually just a regular, very good-looking 19-year-old, Hollywood lost its collective mind. Like, wait, he's not really like that? He's Leonardo, and he's a teenager? That's when the industry collectively screamed, okay, we need this kid in every movie ever made. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. He didn't win, but honestly, who cares? He got the real prize. Attention, from producers, from directors, and from millions of viewers who suddenly realized this wasn't just another pretty face. After Critters 3 and the drama with De Niro, this was the third booster in the rocket that launched DiCaprio's career into orbit. And it wasn't the easy route. Not every teen actor is willing to sit in makeup for hours, learn specific facial tics, and portray a character who doesn't scream heartthrob, but instead makes people say, "Oh, poor kid, I just want to hug him." But Leo took the risk, and that risk paid off, because everything truly serious started with Arnie. From that point on, no one saw him as just the cute guy anymore. He became that actor who can go deep. And sure, the Oscar wouldn't officially land in his hands for another 2 decades and several rounds of on-screen suffering, but the ice started cracking in 1993, when a 19-year-old DiCaprio quietly outshone grown men in the category. So if you think your first serious role has to be heroic or suave, remember Leo, remember Arnie, and remember the moment Hollywood went silent just long enough to start clapping. How Leo became every teen girl's dream and every sugar daddy's nightmare. The golden 90s of DiCaprio. Remember how it was? You'd be standing in line at the video rental store. Yes, those mystical places before Netflix. Flipping through VHS covers, and bam! A Leonardo DiCaprio face staring into your soul. That's it. Forget you came for Terminator. You're walking out with Romeo plus Juliet. Because by the mid-90s, Leo wasn't just an actor, he was a full-blown cultural obsession. After What's Eating Gilbert Grape and playing the tortured soul of indie cinema, he suddenly transformed into a Hollywood angel with cheekbones carved by gods, hair straight out of a shampoo commercial, and eyes that whispered, "I get your pain." The Basketball Diaries, Romeo plus Juliet, Total Eclipse. Leo picked roles where he could suffer beautifully and accidentally rip his t-shirt in slow motion. And girls, from 13 to 33, were blacking out in theaters. Paparazzi began stalking him like he was a unicorn with abs. He became the new Johnny Depp, but without the pirate scarf and with slightly more coherent speech. The world split into 2 categories, those in love with Leo and those lying about it. His paychecks skyrocketed, from hundreds of thousands to multi-millions per film. Directors fought over him, producers called at 2 a.m., teen magazines launched issues like, "Turn your room into a Leo shrine." Yes, that was a thing. He was on every poster, every pillow, every charm necklace worn by hormonal teens. But fame, as we know, never comes alone. Along with Leo came the Pussy Posse, his infamous squad of rich, young, slightly lost actor bros who partied like it was the last summer on Earth. Wine, models, pool parties, the full A-list starter pack. And even though tabloids tried to brand him a bad boy, Leo still remained a mum-approved sweetheart. Because, let's face it, have you seen that face? He could have stayed a forever teen idol, trapped in laminated magazine centerfolds. But he chose the high road. He said yes to Titanic, no to a dozen generic scripts, and proved he wasn't just a pretty face, he was a pretty face with a plan. But it was right then, in the mid-90s, when girls were pinning posters above their beds and boys were quietly hating his jawline. That's when the legend of Leo was born. How Leo sank with the Titanic and rose as a global superstar. If you think peak actor fame is walking the red carpet or winning an Oscar, then clearly you weren't around in 1997, watching millions of teenagers sob over Leonardo DiCaprio's freezing face in the icy waters of the Atlantic. Titanic wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural meteor. And Leo? He was the blonde-haired poster child that came crashing with it. When DiCaprio signed on to play Jack Dawson, he probably thought, okay, another romantic drama, a couple kisses, some crying, cool. But he had no idea his face would soon be printed on millions of notebooks, posters, pillows, and, heaven help us, even toilet paper. Titanic made billions, won 11 Oscars, but not for Leo, and turned him into not just a movie star, but a full-blown global phenomenon. Boys hated him. Girls loved him so hard they threw tantrums in classrooms, screamed at movie theaters, and rewatched the film 10 times in a row. Some still think his actual name is Jack. Leo himself wasn't ready for that level of madness. He was suddenly transformed from serious young actor to that guy from the ship who froze, but somehow everyone's still in love with. Paparazzi climbed his balconies. The press tracked his every move. A casual trip to grab coffee became a CIA-level extraction mission. Legend has it, he even considered taking a break from acting, because, well, it's hard to channel Hamlet when there's a group of 13-year-olds crying behind a bush. He couldn't walk 10 feet without hearing, "Jack!" What's more interesting is that after Titanic, he rejected every script that sounded remotely like "handsome man with blue eyes saves the world," just to avoid getting permanently stuck as the drowned dreamboat. Instead, he ran to Scorsese, to the beach, to Catch Me If You Can. Anywhere but back on a damn ship. And in doing so, he proved he wasn't just a heartthrob, he was a strategist. Still, Titanic remains the defining myth. And even if you're now a billionaire Oscar winner, an environmental activist, and Tarantino's favorite leading man, you have to remember, your career really blew up after you froze on a wooden door and let the girl live. Thank you, Leo. Without you, we wouldn't have the iconic line, "I'm the king of the world." And we wouldn't have a generation of women still searching for their Jack, preferably one who can float. How Leo ditched the romance, put on a psychopath suit, and became Scorsese's favorite son. After Leonardo Dicaprio sank in the Atlantic and resurrected as the patron saint of teenage obsession, he could have just stayed there, floating on the endless fame of Titanic. Seriously, he could have made rom-coms called Love on a Yacht every summer, bathed in money and fan mail, and lived happily ever after. But nope, Leo wanted to be an actor. Capital A. Slightly unhinged glare included. In the early 2000s, he basically announced, "Enough, no more water, no more roses, no more weepy-eyed sunsets. Give me blood, trauma, rage, and Martin Scorsese yelling at me from behind the camera." Thus began the ultimate Hollywood bromance, Leo and Marty. And this wasn't your average director and muse setup. This was a full-blown we're making masterpieces deal with it partnership. In Gangs of New York, Leo stepped out for the first time, not as the dreamy boy, but as a bruised, leather-wearing street rat next to Daniel Day-Lewis, who devoured every scene like a starving lion, and Leo held his ground. He didn't fade. He didn't run crying to his trailer. He switched on the "I got this" mode and proved he could brawl, rage, and snarl just as well as he could whisper, "I'll never let go." Then came The Aviator, where he literally lost his mind on screen, washed his hands 30 times a day, and shouted, "Show me all the blueprints!" With such conviction you started wondering, wait, is he actually losing it? That performance earned him another Oscar nomination, and again, no statue. Because, tradition. The Departed, Shutter Island, Revolutionary Road, Leo went through a full transformation. Now, he didn't just act. He suffered, cracked, unraveled, snapped, cried, killed, died, and then suffered some more. He became the guy for cinephiles, not just swooning teenage girls. DiCaprio was no longer a prisoner of his pretty face. He proved, I can be anyone, from a billionaire with OCD to a tortured undercover cop, spiraling into paranoia. And finally, Hollywood stopped looking at him as that hot guy with the tragic endings and started seeing him as a genuine force of nature in front of the lens. Scorsese, he just watched and said, "Go, Leo, go." And Leo did, loudly, madly, brilliantly. How Leo finally howled his way to the Oscar and became Hollywood's king with a mission: save the planet and date. No one over 25. If you still think Leonardo DiCaprio got an Oscar for Titanic, welcome to reality, my friend. Nope. Titanic gave him global fame, bedroom posters, and the eternal line, "Jack, you're freezing," but no golden statue. The Oscar, it stayed elusive. Leo became a living meme, the guy who's always nominated but keeps losing to a teapot in the background. Then came The Wolf of Wall Street, a role where DiCaprio finally unleashed everything he had been bottling up: rage, charisma, ridiculous facial expressions, and glorious chaos. He crawled across floors, screamed into phones, threw lobsters, dished out drugs like candy, and still managed to be outrageously charming. If there was ever a role titled Unleash the Beast, this was it. He made the film so intense that people forgot. Wait, isn't that the guy from the boat? But the Oscar still didn't show up, so Leo went all in with The Revenant. He basically said, "Fine, you want suffering? You got it?" He slept inside a dead horse, ate raw fish guts, whispered with frost-bitten lips, and fought a bear. Not metaphorically, a literal bear. After that, the Academy had no choice. In 2016, the entire planet stood up and clapped. Leo finally got his golden statue, and the memes were put to rest. From then on, Leo became what we now call the wise alpha of Hollywood. He acts rarely, but with purpose. He saves the planet. Well, sort of. He flies his private jet to climate forums. But hey, it's for the Earth. And he continues to date women under 26. Seriously, that became a whole internet rule. Once you hit 26, you age out of the Leo dating program. He became the voice of ecology, but can still play a psychopath, billionaire, painter, or washed-up TV star. His career isn't just successful, it's cult-worthy. And the best part, he never disappeared. He just leveled up. He's the symbol of eternal youth, an actor who laughed at the system and conquered it, and the guy you can forgive for dating 22-year-old models forever, because, well, he's Leo. The king of square footage, how Leo bought half of Hollywood and pretended it was for spiritual balance. While ordinary folks are out there juggling mortgages for their 400-square-foot apartments with a parking lot view, Leonardo DiCaprio has been playing Monopoly on expert mode. Except instead of paper properties, he's collecting real-life mansions. No mortgage broker in sight. Let's start with the big one. $37 million. That's the rumored price tag of his Hollywood Hills dream compound, carefully assembled like a sandwich made of luxury ingredients. Legend has it that it all began with a modest little property once owned by Madonna, a mere $2.5 million, basically like a Moscow studio apartment with a balcony. And then Leo switched on collect the neighbors mode, buying up everything connected to it. Now he's got a full-blown estate with a meditation zone for thinking deep eco-thoughts, possibly a pavilion for whale sound therapy, and maybe even a room just for rejecting scripts that might lose him another Oscar. But in case he ever wants to show off some coastal chill, Leo grabbed himself a Malibu beach house, 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and the Pacific Ocean practically lapping at the windows, all for $13.75 million. Naturally, the place is optimized. One room for breathing in salty sea air, another for reflecting on blockbuster roles he turned down. Today, the house is listed at around $23 million. Maybe because of the view, or maybe because Leo allegedly wrote, "I'm the king of the world," on the bathroom mirror in Sharpie. And Beverly Hills? Of course he's got one there too. 1,000 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and neighbors who probably squeal, "OMG, it's Leo," every time he steps onto his terrace in a robe. Sure, he could have bought a yacht. But why bother when you can live on land like it's a yacht, ocean breeze optional? To spice things up, Leo also grabbed himself a desert oasis in Palm Springs, the historic Dinah Shore estate, 7,000 square feet of mid-century glory. Price $4.2 million. It's probably where he meditates, feeds lizards by hand, and practices his speeches about climate change while surrounded by vintage furniture and succulents. But wait, there's more. Leo needed a dash of urban chaos too, so he picked up a wellness apartment in Manhattan, $10 million, for a place that was basically supposed to heal you. Water filtered to the tears of a film critic, air purified to within an inch of its molecular life. And still it wasn't enough. He sold it at a loss. For just $8 million, what can we say? Health isn't always a profitable business. So what's the moral of this real estate fairy tale? Leo isn't just a movie star. He's a collector of spaces. Each home is like a different character. In one, he's the brooding recluse. In another, he's the ocean-loving gourmet. In the third, a rich bachelor with a green conscience. And while some joke that he buys properties because he can't commit to women over 25, we know the truth. He's just investing in something that actually appreciates in value. It's not the engine that roars, it's his conscience, how Leo is trying to save the planet one. Luxury EV at a time. When you think of Leonardo Dicaprio, your mind probably doesn't go straight to cars. More likely, you think yachts, Victoria's Secret models, and deeply emotional speeches in front of melting glaciers. But hold on. Leo's not just a romantic with the face of a tortured poet, he's also a man who puts his money into motors, just not the loud, fuel-guzzling kind. No, Leo prefers his rides quiet, sleek, and charged with purpose, and price tags that make your Prius shut down in shame. Let's start with his Tesla Roadster. This wasn't just a car, it was the first truly sexy electric vehicle, and Leo knew it before Elon Musk became the official mascot of Twitter chaos. Word is Dicaprio was one of the early adopters, zipping through Hollywood silently, while the rest of the world was still filling gas tanks and burning ozone. The price? Somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000, depending on features and how much ego was packed into the glove compartment. And no, it wasn't just a flashy buy, it was a statement. Back then, eco-friendly vehicles were associated with clunky boxes on wheels and drivers in socks and sandals combos. But here comes Hollywood's golden boy in a Tesla, pulling up to red carpets. The message? Sure, I could drive a Ferrari, but I cry about the Arctic sometimes. And you know what? Respect. But if you thought Tesla was Leo's only green ride, buckle up. Our man went further and bought a Fisker Karma, a hybrid beauty with a price tag in the $100,000 to $116,000 range. This car looked like it was designed by someone who asked, what if Batman went vegan? Even the name oozes eco-karma. Driving this machine means you're saving the planet, so in your next life, you're not coming back as a mosquito. You're coming back as Leo again. Smart move. What's more, Leo doesn't just drive these things, he invests in the companies behind them. That's right, he literally puts his money where his mouth is. He's betting on humanity's survival, or at least on Elon Musk getting us all to Mars, where we'll need silent vehicles not to scare off any polite Martians. Picture this. Leo cruising down the Pacific Coast Highway in his whisper-quiet eco-beast. Hans Zimmer is probably playing in the background. The passenger seat is empty, because his 25-year-old model girlfriend is still asleep. And somewhere in the glove box, there's a tiny, rolled-up version of the Kyoto Protocol. It's all very on-brand. Sure, some might say his green obsession is just a PR move to offset his frequent private jet usage. But with Leo, it's deeper than that. He actually seems to believe that cars should be both beautiful and guilt-free. And honestly, if anyone can sell us on the idea that saving the planet is hot, it's him. You look at Leo behind the wheel of a hybrid, and suddenly you want to recycle, shut off your AC, and compost banana peels. So don't laugh too quickly. While other celebs are revving Lamborghinis and screaming at valets, Leo is gliding into a charging station without a sound. And yes, maybe his Tesla moves slower than his love life, but at least his conscience is clean. Leo and the great masterpieces, how Dicaprio spends millions on art but refuses to hang it on his walls. When you hear the name Leonardo, your brain probably jumps to, yes, the guy who painted The Last Supper. But in Hollywood, that name long ago stopped being about brushes and saints. Today, when someone says Leonardo, they mean Dicaprio, the man who buys masterpieces like others buy avocados at a Sunday market. First rule of the Collectors Club: never buy a painting cheaper than your watch. Leo seems to have mastered that one perfectly. One of the loudest episodes in his art shopping adventures came straight out of a Scorsese film. Turns out Leo accepted as a gift. Friendly exchange, totally casual. A Picasso painting worth $3.2 million and a Basquiat collage worth $9 million, all fine and dandy, until those masterpieces surfaced in the massive corruption scandal known as 1MDB. Suddenly, Leo had to act like he just happened to wander past a gallery and accidentally dropped his entire bank account inside. To his credit, he gave the artworks back to US authorities. After all, hanging a Basquiat bought with Malaysian taxpayer money in your Malibu home, that's not just bad press, it's borderline criminal. Let's move on. What does every serious collector need to show off taste, drama, and a flair for the cinematic? That's right. Dorothy's ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz. So Leo, a man who has never starred in a musical, casually shelled out $3 million for a pair of sparkling red shoes once worn by Judy Garland. Why, we can only guess. Maybe he planned to wear them during a mindfulness retreat in Malibu, or maybe he's hoping that if he clicks them 3 times, he'll go back to the 90s when Titanic was still in theaters and he was dating people over 20. But that's not all. Leo doesn't just love cinema memories, he loves cinematic furniture. That's why he reportedly paid around $600,000 for the piano from Casablanca. Yes, that piano, the little yellow one where Sam played As Time Goes By. Leo entered the auction like a man on a mission, not an actor, but the protagonist in a thriller where the prize is history itself. He won. Expensive? Sure. Stylish? Absolutely. Where is it now? Maybe in his bathroom, maybe next to his espresso machine. We don't know. But one thing's certain. No one is playing it. Still, if Tarantino comes over for dinner, it's one hell of a conversation piece. Critics might say, show off, vanity, waste of money. But let's be honest. This is a deep, emotional pursuit. Leo isn't just collecting objects. He's collecting cultural meaning. And if some of those objects arrived with a sketchy past, well, who among us hasn't accidentally bought something from a questionable online sale? In a world where celebrities show off yachts and Lamborghinis, Leo stands out. He's the kind of guy who looks at a Banksy and doesn't ask, "Where should I hang it?" But instead, "Who should I return this to at the FBI?" He's not just an actor. He's a patron of pop culture, with a hint of noir drama, a man living as if he's the hero of his own Scorsese biopic, trying to save the world. One iconic item at a time. So if tomorrow you hear that Leo bought the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones or Kurt Cobain's last guitar, don't be shocked. That's not shopping. That's a lifestyle. When shoes pinch your wallet, how Leo lost $4.6 million trying to save the planet in sneakers. Leonardo Dicaprio isn't just an actor, he's a superhero of the eco-conscious generation. No cape, but plenty of climate guilt. He's not saving the world with fists, he's doing it with footwear. Yes, if you thought he only dropped millions on Basquiat paintings and champagne-drenched yachts, buckle up. Our planet-saving heartthrob has tried his hand, or foot, at the shoe business. Meet Loki, a sneaker brand so sustainable it practically composts itself. These aren't your average kicks. They're vegan, eco-friendly, and made from recycled plastic bottles. Honestly, if you dropped one of these in a forest, it might sprout roots and start photosynthesizing. And, of course, Leo didn't just wear them. He invested $3 million, roughly $4.6 million USD, into the company, hoping to help the world walk into a brighter, greener future. Only problem? The world wasn't quite ready to strut that runway. Despite the investment, bold press releases, and Leo posing with palm trees in ethically sourced linen, the brand started bleeding money. Turns out even the most climate-conscious consumers aren't always willing to fork out $200 for sneakers that barely peek out from under their jeans. Leo suddenly found himself in an awkward position. On one hand, he's clearly doing something good. On the other, the business is limping, like it stepped on a Lego brick. A lesser man might have muttered, "Oops, my bad," and quietly sold his shares. But not Leo. Our Titanic hero doesn't retreat. He stayed in. Because for him, this isn't just a business, it's a statement. I believe shoes can change the world. And if the world doesn't get that yet, well, it'll just have to catch up. His fans are split. Camp A. This is a flop. He doesn't know business. Camp B. Shut up! He's not doing it for money. He's doing it for the planet. Somewhere in the middle sits a silent accountant with a calculator whispering, "Where's my $4.6 million, Leo?" To be fair, he's always played the long game. He's been fighting climate change since his beach days, planting trees and zipping around in electric cars, while Hollywood was still mocking hybrids and sipping from plastic. So maybe this isn't a failure. Maybe it's just that Leo, once again, stepped up too early. Give it a couple more years, and everyone will be scrambling to buy eco-sneakers. And Leo will casually say, "Told you so." Honestly, isn't it better to lose a few million on green shoes than to make $1 billion off oil and gas? So maybe Leo's not the most successful footwear mogul, but he's definitely the most ethically fashionable one. While other celebs launch vodka brands and peddle pixelated NFT heads, Leo's still out here believing in the power of sneakers. Maybe they didn't save the business, but they sure saved someone's conscience. Luxury with a conscience. How Dicaprio became a Rolex ambassador and bought his mom a necklace in the "I'm a loving son with a billionaire's budget" style, while the rest of Hollywood is still figuring out which pose works best for their latest Lamborghini selfie. Leonardo Dicaprio is playing a completely different game. He doesn't just buy expensive stuff, he buys it in a way that makes the entire world say, "He's such a good guy who happens to have a Rolex on his wrist worth more than a London studio apartment." Fast forward to 2025. Headlines in every glossy magazine shine like a polished bezel. Leonardo DiCaprio becomes an official Rolex ambassador. No TikTok influencers here. Just Leo, Oscar winner, environmental activist, and connoisseur of 25 and under dating. Now he's not just the face of cinema, he's the face of Swiss precision and status. While mere mortals grab watches at duty-free, Leo probably gets his delivered by Heinrich Rolex himself, if such a man existed. Details of the deal. Hush-hush, of course, but let's be honest, no one makes DiCaprio their ambassador if he's wearing a Casio. Chances are he already owns a Daytona, a Submariner, and possibly even a secret Rolex DiCaprio edition that tells time and tracks global CO2 levels. So you're thinking, okay, Leo likes luxury. What else is new? Well, next comes his mom. Yes, the great heartbreaker, the Wolf of Wall Street, yacht party MVP once walked into a store and bought a necklace for his mother. Naturally, not just any necklace, one with lab-grown diamonds from VRAI, a brand that sparkles without leaving a carbon footprint. The price? Undisclosed, because real sons don't brag about how much their "I love you, Mom" costs. But let's be clear, VRAI is not your corner booth at a flea market. Even the box is probably pricier than movie premiere tickets. So now Leo isn't just that guy who dates models under 25. He's a thoughtful son who buys his mum ethical jewelry, because even when giving diamonds, he thinks about the planet. Some skeptics will mutter, "Sure, PR move." But let's be real. If you're going to play the PR game, do it the DiCaprio way. Luxury watches, diamonds for mum, all wrapped in a bow of ethics and climate consciousness. Who else manages to land on both People's Sexiest Men Alive list and Rolex's corporate partnership slides? Speaking of ethics, becoming a Rolex ambassador isn't just about posting with a watch. It's about joining a brotherhood of men who say things like, "Real style doesn't speak, it whispers," while adjusting their GMT Master 2. And Leo, with his Save the Planet mission, basically tells the world, "I can be luxurious and responsible. So can you. Just be me." And honestly, it's the perfect match. Rolex stands for timeless value. Leo stands for eternal youth. Together, they do what no one else could: turn luxury into moral superiority. So next time you see Leo flashing a new model on his wrist with that relaxed Malibu grin, remember, somewhere in California, his mom is glowing in her diamond necklace. And in Geneva, a group of Swiss executives are smiling smugly. We picked the perfect guy. When sneakers betray, how Leo lost $4.6 million saving the planet one footstep at a time. Leonardo DiCaprio has always played by his own rules. He might be kissing a supermodel in Monaco one day and delivering a climate speech the next. He's the Hollywood Elon Musk, only with an Oscar and a fleet of yachts. And now, an investor in eco-friendly sneakers. Yes, in a world where we already have eco-meat and eco-sex, we now also have eco-sneakers. And if you think celebrities only invest in wine, casinos, and monkey NFTs, Leo's here to surprise you. He poured millions into Lucy, a sneaker brand made from recycled plastic that costs as much as a business-class plane ticket. Eco-friendly, fashionable, and oh so conscious. And best of all, it looks great in a press release. There's just one tiny problem. The sneakers were so green that even prophets decided to stay in the forest. The result? A $4.6 million loss. Or, as they like to call it in the sustainable startup world, the cost of integrity. Naturally, his fans rushed to his defense. Leo doesn't care about money. He cares about saving the planet, they shouted, posting photos of him standing in sneakers next to children in Uganda. Sure, in the next photo, he's boarding a private jet. But we're not here to nitpick. Leo himself stayed silent. Maybe he believes money is just paper while morals are forever. Or maybe his yacht Wi-Fi was down. Either way, Lucy fell flat on the market. People just weren't ready to pay $250 for shoes that look like they were stitched together from yogurt packaging. Although the idea was noble, less leather, more love, less carbon, more conscience. But as it turns out, most buyers still choose shoes based on Black Friday discounts, not carbon neutrality. The best part? Leo wasn't just an investor. He pushed Lucy like it was his life's mission. He became the Mahatma Gandhi of footwear. "Every pair saves the ocean," their slogans screamed. "Every pair tanks our budget," whispered his accountant. But alas, the accountant lost, and it wouldn't be so bad. Lots of celebrities flop in business. But this just doesn't fit Leo's image. He's the golden boy, the guy who turns everything into gold. He turned The Revenant into an Oscar. And now, a pair of sneakers turned into a financial Titanic. To be fair, Leo didn't run away from the mess. He didn't disappear or delete all those sustainable footwear posts. He stayed. Because he believes in sneakers, in the planet. In people who'll one day stop buying Yeezys and start rocking shoes made of cork and banana leaves. It's also very Hollywood. Lose the money but win the moral battle. Drop millions, but keep your image squeaky clean. Be a hero not of box office profits, but of the green revolution. So sure, we can all laugh at how Leo lost nearly $5 million on shoes no one wants. But maybe, just maybe, in 20 years, the world will say he was right, he just started too soon, and while other actors are launching tequila brands and releasing trashy fashion lines, Leo will still be out there, somewhere in sunny California, slipping into his low-keys, looking out at the horizon and thinking, well, screw it, at least my feet don't sweat. Title: The Ice Cream That Melted, How Leonardo Dicaprio and Tobey Maguire Got Scared of Their Own Movie. Just imagine, you're hanging out with friends, filming something casual, drinking some soda, chatting, talking about women, life, and other deep thoughts like, what if? You think it's just a friendly get-together with a camera around? And then, bam! Someone takes that footage and turns it into a movie for the whole world to see. That's pretty much what happened to Leonardo Dicaprio, Tobey Maguire, and the infamous film Don's Plum. Back in the late 90s, before Leo sailed off on the Titanic but already had a suitcase full of ambition, he and his buddy Tobey agreed to shoot a small project. Don's Plum is a film where a bunch of millennials with various issues sit in a diner and spill everything, from sexual frustrations to childhood trauma. Basically, just another night in Los Angeles if you're an aspiring actor with deep cinema ideas. At first glance, nothing criminal. They hung out, chatted, threw in a few crude lines, standard artsy mumblecore stuff. But here's the twist. Leo and Tobey apparently thought it was going to be a short film, like a private workshop, a test shoot, a speck in their growing galaxy of future roles. But director R.D. Robb had other plans. He was like, "Are you kidding? We've got raw emotional gold here. Let's go full feature." So he edited it into a full-length film and started shopping it around festivals. Leo and Tobey freaked out. A full-length feature? We're wearing tank tops, ranting drunkenly about exes. This isn't our career. This is a leaked group chat. And thus began a full-blown Hollywood circus. Leo and Tobey sued the producers, demanded the film be banned from release in the US and Canada, and accused the team of betrayal and breach of agreement. The director fired back, claiming they weren't worried about artistry but image, saying the film painted them as misogynistic bros and could hurt their careers. DiCaprio, by then, was already morphing into a global teen heartthrob. He wanted to be seen as sensitive, poetic, a romantic hero, not a guy throwing F-bombs in a diner booth with his bros. And Tobey? Well, come on! Future Spider-Man can't be caught whining on screen about girls. He's supposed to save the world, not cry over lattes. Eventually, after courtroom drama, yelling matches, and